Okay. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today for our first strategic webinar of 2026 in a brand new series called EUROCONTROL Aviation Engage. We are now implementing our new EUROCONTROL strategy, which is called Trajectory 2030. This strategy was proposed by our DG and adopted by our member states last November. In these webinars, what we are trying to achieve is to engage with a cross-section of our stakeholders on priority topics for European aviation. My name is Denis Huet. I'm head of the EUROCONTROL Aviation Intelligence Unit, and I'm very happy to be moderating this webinar today. This is a topic today which is very close to my heart, which is providing support to our stakeholders, using the data, the unique set of data that we have available in EUROCONTROL. The idea is to serve the data needs of our stakeholders. This is through online dashboards, mobile app, publications, tools, and many more. We'll see that at the end. Today, we'll be looking at some of the major developments of 2025 based on EUROCONTROL's unique data, and as well as what we can expect for 2026. We have received around 1,000 registrations for today, and we are very pleased to see such strong interest in this topic. We'll do our best to address the questions that will be raised during the webinar after the presentation of my guest speakers. You might have noticed that we have already, in EUROCONTROL, published on 6th January a dedicated two-page data snapshot showing key figures for 2025. Tomorrow, we are planning to publish a special European aviation overview, which will provide much more details on 2025. We did that already last year in 2024, for 2024. Today, we'll be discussing, as we said, what we have learned from 2025 as a sector and the insights that aviation data has brought to us. But most importantly, this webinar will give the floor to senior aviation panelists for their analysis of the data trends, as well as to understand from them which EUROCONTROL data or products they have found most useful, most meaningful for achieving their business goals. So today, I'm very delighted to introduce our panelists for today's webinar. So first, Mrs. Montserrat Barriga, Director General, European Region Airline Association, ERA, and welcome, Montserrat. We have also Mr. Michael Stanton-Geddes, Director of Economic and Competition at ACI Europe. So welcome, Michael. Thanks for joining. And finally, we have Ms. Claire Leleu, Forecasting Manager at EUROCONTROL, part of my team, Head of STAT4 and STAT4 Traffic Forecast. So welcome, Claire. So they will each make a short presentation to share their perspective on today's topic, and I will then open the floor to the Q&A session after the three presentations. We have already received quite a large number of questions, so we'll try to address the question that we have, plus the question that might pop up during the webinar all together in this session. You can use the Q&A function to send us your questions during the webinar, and if you are experiencing any technical issue, don't hesitate to use the chat function. Let me now give the floor to our first panelist, Claire Leleu from my team, who will walk us through some key figures for 2025, as well as information about our latest STAT4 traffic forecast for 2026. So Claire, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Denis. Yeah, thank you, Denis. Good morning, everybody. So 2025 in a nutshell, a bit challenging to summarize everything in 5 minutes, but I will try. So Europe recorded 11.1 million flights, posting a 4.1% growth rate on 2024. And overall, the number of flights managed by the network manager, on average 30,500 flights a day, has fully returned to pre-pandemic levels after a 6-year hiatus. But locally, we have a two-speed recovery. All states located in Southern Europe have already largely surpassed their 2019 levels with double-digit growth, owing to the strong demand on touristic flows. The southeast axis in particular continue to record high overflight volumes, as airlines also need to avoid restricted airspaces and routes due to the ongoing conflicts. The Northern Europe, in this area, most of the states have not recovered from the pandemic levels. States in the northeast, except Poland and Slovakia maybe, are still well below their 2019 levels. They are affected by these airspace closures and the flight bans. Here we speak more about the Baltics and Scandinavian states. And similarly, the big states located in the northwest have not recorded, except Ireland maybe. They are struggling to recover owing to their weak arrival-departure flows and between them, and also the slowdown on domestic flows and some subdued volumes on long-haul flights at main hub, especially on the Asian Pacific flows. So this is the overall situation. Let's have a look at the top airlines. So Ryanair, can you click? Yeah, okay. Ryanair Group finished on the top position for the 11th year in a row, operating now more than 10% of the daily flights in Europe. By the way, Ryanair Group is the fourth operator globally after Southwest American and Delta. Number 2 is EasyJet Group, operating half of Ryanair volumes, and EasyJet is closely followed by Turkish Airline Group. Speaking about the market segments, the share of market segment, can you just click, Claire? The share of market segments has increased since pre-COVID levels, and we see that they are now surpassing mainline as a main segment. The difference between low cost and mainline is still marginal, but the low cost predominance was confirmed with the expansion in Central Europe and also in the Balkans. The third market segment is regional, accounting for 12% of the flights. The segment was not really growing on 2024, but Montserrat will tell us more about this regional segment a bit later. Let's now talk about the extra European flow, so the long-haul flights. The flows within Europe, just to recall, around 80% of all flights grew by 3% this year in 2025, while the intercontinental flows, 20%, were much more dynamic, posting an 8% increase. And outside Europe, our most dynamic partner was Middle East, which is now a major flight hub connecting Europe, Asia, and Africa. The second busiest partner was North Africa in 2025, which overtook the North Atlantic, owing to strong growth on flows with Egypt, Morocco, and Algeria. The fourth partner is Asia Pacific, which was 22% above 2019 levels, so largely recovered from pre-pandemic levels. But we see here some imbalanced competition between Europe and non-EU carriers, especially a lot of competition from Chinese airlines. Let's speak now about the performance, more in terms of delays. Just to recap, the delay can be measured with different causes, but the all causes delay per flight on departure in 2025 averaged to just below 15 minutes. So from the passenger perspective, so just below 15 minutes for all causes delay. And it's nearly 3 minutes less than in 2024, which is a good news for passenger. If we drill down, of this 15 minutes per flight all causes delay, 1.7 minutes per flight corresponds to an ATFM en route regulation. Capacity and staffing issues remain the main cause behind these en route ATFM delays, and the weather issues are the second cause. These en route ATFM delays were 20% below 2024, thanks to efforts made by the ANSPs, thanks to a better stakeholder coordination, some proactive measures from NM, and also a significant reduction in weather disruptions compared to 2024. Still, this 1.7 minute per flight delay is far from the EU performance target, which was 0.9 minutes per flight in 2025. Let me show you now a last podium, the top European airports. Istanbul was number 1 for the 4th year in a row, with around 1,500 daily flights, followed by Amsterdam, which kept the second spot, only expanding by 1%, possibly limited by the cap. And we see London Heathrow and Paris CDG came next, recording both similar volumes of traffic. I think Michael will also detail the picture from the airport side in a while. So now, what can we expect for 2026? On this slide, you see the latest Stat4 forecasts for the NM area. So in 2026, we will see a transition from rebound-driven growth rate we experienced in the past, in the recent years, to more structural growth. NM flights are expected to grow by 3.2% in the base scenario, reaching 11.4 million flights. This 3% growth is supported by resilient leisure and VFR, visiting friend and relatives demand, enabled by dynamic low-cost carriers. They are driving capacity expansion, new routes, notably further east. And we also see some policy changes, as some states, for example, are now reducing their aviation taxes, like Germany and Sweden, notably. We also see some robust demand on the intercontinental flows to Europe, notably with Middle East, North Africa, and North Atlantic. And we will still see a strong divergence across the states between the Mediterranean touristic places, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Italy, Turkey, attracting tourists, leading the growth, while several northern states, more hub-dependent, remain below pre-COVID level, as they are still affected by these airspace closures on the Asian destinations. You can see on these graphs that from 2027 onwards, the growth will return to more moderate rates, yes, of 2% on average in the base scenario. And this base scenario is also published together with a low growth scenario where you would see almost no growth. You see this flat line, but possibly in the high scenario, we could also go to up to 3% growth in the long run. Lastly, I just want to comment on the risks surrounding this forecast. Increased geopolitical tensions are identified as the major downside risk factor for your European aviation outlook. They would slow economic growth, affect consumer confidence and business sentiment, which ultimately would negatively influence the air travel demand. It is also to be noted that any airspace closure or reopening would create high volatility and would lead to shifts of overflights locally, especially in the southeast. Voilà, so this is what I wanted to share with you on this 2025 and 2026 summary. And I just want to mention that the next forecast will be published in March, but I now hand over to you, Denis, for the next panelist.
Yes, thank you very much, Claire, and for your detailed presentation. I saw a question popping up during your presentation, at least one, which we can address now. It's about the slides. So don't worry, the slides will be shared after this event. So you can go back and forth in the slide pack. Thank you very much. So now I would like to give the floor to Montserrat to give us the regional airline perspective. Montserrat, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Denis and EUROCONTROL team. I'm really delighted to share ERA's perspective. Thank you for the opportunity. 2025 was an important year for ATC in Europe, and given the delays the airlines experienced in 2024, which was the higher in over 2 decades, I think. And we saw some small, although yet encouraging signs of improvements across the network, and many states performed in line with or exceeded their performance plan requirements, and we should recognize that up front. But of course, it's very positive to see Claire's numbers and the total flights passing pre-pandemic numbers. We saw improved coordination and fewer weather-related disruptions, and also some incremental improvements in capacity planning, particularly in the southwest part of Europe. However, I wanted to bring the airline's perspective, and it's important to highlight that structural issues still remain. And this is important also for planning for 26 and beyond. There are capacity bottlenecks and ongoing air traffic controller shortages in some key states, and especially considering the fact that when we look closer in the delay numbers in 25, capacity and staffing are pretty much static. It hasn't changed. So the periods of industrial action or the major or lengthy weather events or technical issues can quickly ripple across the network, causing widespread delays and cancellations, sometimes far from the affected area. And people don't always realize this. And this is why for the airlines, it's very important, the current revision of the Air Passenger Rights Regulation, the famous EU 261, because passengers and airlines need to have transparency and need to see what is the reality behind the delays. Hopefully, by extending the threshold to more than 3 hours currently, we will see more passengers get to their destinations during the period of lengthy delays than is the case now with 3 hours. But also ATCO strikes and major weather have a huge impact on flight efficiency, and longer flight times and more emissions as flights are rerouted to avoid the affected areas, which are essentially blocked. So no one wins, least of the passenger. But if we now look at ERA's performance, the ERA is made of 57 airline members, most of which are regional airlines, also some cargo airlines. And the delay picture is more nuanced. Our airlines, which form the backbone of connectivity for smaller communities, saw only modest improvements. Traffic for regional airlines declined slightly by 0.7%, and this builds on an already significant reduction trend for domestic traffic, affecting connectivity for those in remote regions where there's no other viable transport or any other alternative but to fly. So ATC delays were reduced for regional traffic, but only 1% compared to nearly 14% at network level. ERA members' flights still experience delays more than double the EU target. And when disruption occurs, passengers usually face delays of approximately 20 minutes or even more, and especially during the peak summer season. For short regional sectors and crews often operating up to 6 flights per duty period, that's a significant proportion of the journey time, with smaller airlines having less operational opportunities to bring their schedules back on time. And in capacity-constrained areas where delays are prevalent for much of the day, this again removes all contingency from the operation and therefore can lead to cancellations towards the end of the day, which is something no one wants, and additional operational and financial impact from crew hours, airport curfews, etc. So in terms of the delay of the profile, regional airlines have always had a slightly different delay type compared to other market segments. Airport delays are comparable to those experienced en route, approximately 50-50. Not quite the same at the network level, where we see more 65-35 split. But the message is that for regionals, every minute matters. Delays translate into missed connections, increased cost, and reduced liability for communities that depend on airlinks. Just a few words on the network manager tools that you mentioned, Dennis. Some of the numbers I've been quoting are lifted from EUROCONTROL's aviation intelligence tools and dashboards. Within ERA, we use Fathom to monitor members' ATC delay performance and the EUROCONTROL data app, which is very useful. We have access to all ERA airlines for the associations team to understand where the main hotspots are, what is driving the delay, and identify cost and trends. And this helps us very much in our discussions, both at the high level in the network management forums, such as the NDOP or a network management board, but also at technical level. And for our members, having access to up-to-the-minute information on traffic patterns, on-time performance, delays, fuel consumptions, it allows airlines to compare the results with the wider network and pinpoint areas of concern to make informed and data-led choices to enhance their efficiency. I was looking through the EUROCONTROL products and service catalog, and I was amazed how many offerings the agency has to support the stakeholders. It's very impressive, but it also made me wonder how many people know about them. From the association, we're very strong supporters of the flight dispatcher days. There are some coming up in March now. And we also have the EUROCONTROL booth at our General Assembly in the association. So thank you for that. And promoting tools like Fathom or Mirror, but perhaps more needs to be done to get the message out there. So that's why webinars such as these are a very good idea, because there are 400 people connected that will hear about these. To conclude, maybe just a few words on what we want for 2026 and beyond. At high level, we want to secure a resilient and efficient network. That's simple, easy said and done. ERA has been calling for accelerated airspace redesign, investment in controller recruitment and training, execution of the ATM master plan, and measures to enhance predictability and resilience, especially for regional routes, to protect essential air links for smaller communities and support sustainable airline operations. It's quite a lot. Near term, we must see the delays experienced by our members reduced, at the very least in line with the overall network performance. I think it's only fair. And that requires a stronger focus on airport delays and bringing the delay per flight down towards the RP4 target to at least give our airlines a chance to operate at full capacity during the peak season this summer. And I know that planning for the summer has been taking place since autumn, with network measures applied once again needed to offload traffic and protect certain hotspots. And the airlines have also been contributing through provision of their summer schedules and through regular planning meetings with the network manager. And all of this is very important that we continue to work together to make the best use of the available capacity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Montserrat. That was very insightful. And I mean, having the regional airlines point of view is very important. As you mentioned, it's key for connectivity, definitely for the European region. And thanks also for your kind words on our products, in Eurocontrol products, be it NM, be it AIU, whatever. We are really there to serve our stakeholders. Thanks so much.
Thank
Now
you.
I would like to give the floor to Michael to share with us the airport perspective. Michael, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Denis and Claire and Eurocontrol for inviting ACI Europe to this webinar. It's great to have the opportunity to speak. ACI Europe represents not just the largest European airports. Actually, we have over 600 members and 400 are regional airports. So we're especially grateful to Montserrat and her airline members for flying to those airports. Keep coming, keep bringing the business and connectivity. ACI Europe also works closely with the Eurocontrol broader organization and especially the Stat4 team, discussing trends, relying on the 7-year and long-term forecast, the challenges of growth and aviation reports, sharing data on what we call the European Airport Performance Network, EAPN, on-time performance, and granular information that's available in the dashboards about traffic and countries and regions. We also work on some products or information around load factor estimations and traffic developments. So we value the relationship with Eurocontrol. I promised Denis and Claire, who are the real masters of European aviation data, to stick to one slide. So let's jump into both a review of 2025 and some ideas for 2026. In the top left 2 charts, 2 stories stand out for me in 2025. The first is the final recovery of the small airports. At ACI Europe, we group airports by size for analysis. And since COVID, we've noted that the smallest airports, the category, the cluster below 1 million passengers a year, which is the threshold where an airport tends to be able to be long-term financially self-sustaining, that category has been the slowest to get back to 2019 traffic levels. Looking at year-to-date traffic in 2025, we finally see that category of small airports being the fastest to grow. There are many reasons behind this, but I think it's largely symptomatic of the aircraft supply strain and the fact that airlines have been prioritizing bigger airports and more profitable routes. The second story of 2025 is the map in the middle. We can see in blue the top 10 fastest growing airports, 2025 passenger traffic compared to the year before. And what we see is that the strengthening muscle of the European aviation system is in Poland and Central Europe. 4 of those fastest growing airports are in Poland and a 5th is in Slovakia. And the other blue dots are airports that have benefited from low-cost carrier growth. On the other hand, the red dots show us the airports that have had traffic contraction year on year. We don't see a concentration in one region. Actually, many of these airports are close by other airports that have had strong growth. Instead, we see localized specific factors. Many of these airports relied on one airline for a lot of their traffic, and that airline either shifted to another airport or that airline went into bankruptcy. So this shows the traffic risk that is borne by European airports. So 2025 had many more interesting stories around the recovery of small traffic and the growth of Central Europe. What can we expect in 2026? In the bottom left, we look at airline scheduled seat capacity, looking ahead for the next 4 months. We're around where we were last year. Right now, we see 6.3% growth in scheduled seats, a little lower than the 7% that was at the same time last year. We also see that airfares are holding up. Airfares are at the same level for summer 2026 as they were for summer 2025, which is a good signal that airlines are not having to price down to stimulate demand. But there's a lot of uncertainty. The top right shows us some selected years of European airport passenger traffic after traffic shocks. Looking back over the past 50 years, we've seen a shortening in the number of years between shocks that resulted in a contraction of European airport passenger traffic. It used to be there was about a decade between a shock that resulted in a contraction of passenger traffic, and that now has shrunk to shocks almost every 5 years or even less. Nonetheless, the industry has been rather good at managing shock and performing under stress. There are also examples of shocks that have hit the industry, such as the Icelandic ash cloud event in 2010, or even Trump won tariffs in 2018 when the industry still delivered growth over 6%. So there are reasons to be optimistic for 2026 and beyond. EUROCONTROL, and I'm showing again the forecast we saw in the bottom right, gives us excellent guidance. Airports rely on the EUROCONTROL forecast as an independent external benchmark for their own forecasts. It's critical for regulatory discussions. But achieving the levels projected in the forecasts both is about anticipating risks that we may not know or be able to control, but also factors we can influence which have material impacts on demand. We aim for that high scenario in the forecast that we ensure people can fly when they want to and where they want to, and we need help from government partners to take action. So firstly, repeating and emphasizing what we heard from Montserrat, we need to deal with airspace capacity and reform. It's essential to defragment air traffic management, to reduce ATM disruptions, and we need to focus on delivering the single European sky and recognizing the role of airports in the air traffic network. Secondly, we saw the projected CAGRs and the lowering for 2027 to 2031 compared to the period up to 2019. We know that a lot of this lower traffic growth forecast is because of costs driven by climate policy. There are many important actions, but what's especially critical is for the SAF industry, sustainable aviation fuel suppliers, to move away from opportunistic arbitrage and build a comprehensive SAF supply chain. One supportive government action would be allowing airlines to buy SAF in one location and separate the environmental characteristics, claim those characteristics for regulatory compliance where needed. In other words, book and claim systems. Thirdly, and finally, a quick win, deal with aviation taxation. Local, regional, and national taxes on a footloose and competitive open European aviation market do not work. These taxes only push traffic and economic activity into other countries. Those are 3 key actions that are important to deliver the forecast for 2026 and beyond. I'm looking forward to see what this year brings us and our continued cooperation with EUROCONTROL and our other stakeholders in this aviation ecosystem. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael, for your detailed presentation from this point of view, airport point of view. It's clear that for airports as well, there are diverse situations, and it's good to hear that you have seen we have seen too the final recovery of small airports. Yeah, you're right. There is a certain optimism for 2026 with this traffic growth. You have highlighted the uncertainty and the volatility, which is very high at the moment. And thanks I'm very happy to learn that you enjoy our products, and we are very happy to also cooperate with you. So now we have heard the three main presentations of today. So I would like now to open the Q&A session with you. So we have, as I said, already received some questions. So I start with that so that you can ask your questions in real time if you need. Perhaps first question to Claire on the traffic forecast or the 2026 outlook. Based on your analysis, what are the main challenges and opportunities the European aviation actors should prepare for in 2026?
Well, so as you have just said, and everybody I think mentioned it, the effects of geopolitical tensions. So part of the challenges that generate very high volatility of traffic. We also see as challenges, and I think Michael tackled it as well, the fleet renewal. The fact that there are bottlenecks in the supply chain, the maintenance costs are high, and the delivery rates are not yet back to what they were. We also see some challenges vis-à-vis the SAF production and the SAF costs. And also surrounding the European area, we see that airport constraints are also somehow weighing on the development of the traffic. For the opportunities, I would say that there is a lot coming from the tech acceleration. I think there are also questions about AI. They are possibly capable of boosting efficiency. And also on the fleet side, I think, but it's more long term, the opportunities with innovation, with new propulsion types, hybrid electric, hydrogen aircraft will, of course, open some new doors, I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. And there's another question also about this uncertainty and how might macroeconomic factors or geopolitical developments influence the traffic forecast that you've prepared on the future, the March one as well for this year?
Well, we use basically, everybody knows that economic forecast remain the most important driver for our traffic forecast, and we use Oxford Economics as the main source of information. For 2026, the growth, GDP growth is around 1.1%, which is a bit more moderate, and apparently there will be a slight rebound in 27, more around 1.5%. But a lot of uncertainty, as we just said, is surrounding the geopolitical developments. And in fact, yeah, we are also relying on the scenarios developed by Oxford Economics. And they were telling us that a worst case trade war would certainly hit Europe very, very hard. If you have a higher US tariff in 26, it would affect China, it would delay their outbound recovery, it would have an impact on the long-haul travel. And also if the tech slowdown is materializing, it would also add to uncertainty. So there are a lot of factors which can really, there are more risk, and they can really put the growth at much lower rates, and it's very difficult to anticipate. But
thank you, Claire. Perhaps one last slide, one last question, and also from the floor at the moment on traffic forecast. Do you anticipate any structural shift in demand, such as business versus leisure travel, long haul versus short haul? How do you see that?
Yeah, I didn't tackle that, but it's true. We see leisure traveling gaining share vis-à-vis business. As I've just explained, it's more located in the south, in the sunny destination in Central Europe, which are also destination operated by low-cost airline. They are more affordable destination for the passenger. We also see some changes in the weekday distribution of traffic. So there is in fact less reliance, I would say, on corporate travel. I think this is a main shift, and we see that because there are more flexible work patterns. Something also I want to mention on this long haul dynamics. The long haul, as we have explained, is recovering faster, but I think it's also the flow which is more exposed to geopolitical risks and airspace restrictions, and somehow it's also very vulnerable.
Thank you, Claire. I see a couple of questions related to environment and to the sustainable development of aviation. Perhaps a question for you, Montserrat. If I try to summarize a little bit those various questions, how to deal with the traffic growth with a quality perspective and a sustainable manner. So, what will be the place of Europe in the aviation world? The balance between mode of transport, and it's very close to what you were telling us about the connectivity. We've also seen on our side the reduction of the domestic flights, which is a trend which we have noticed. So, what are your views on this sustainable development, the place of aviation in the more general transport modes?
Yes, so we see that airport air traffic is growing again, and that's very important because it's really encouraging to see that we are back to better pre-pandemic levels. But what really matters is not the number of flights per se, is smart and sustainable connectivity. More flights don't always mean better links, especially when regional routes are hit by fragmented national routes. Regional airlines keep communities connected and economies alive, and they'll play a major role in a green and competitive Europe. But we see that even if there are more flights, there's less connectivity. And this is a very important message for the European institutions. The Destination 2050 roadmap lays out how Europe can grow and decarbonize with cleaner fuels, new aircraft technologies, and the right EU-wide strategy and technology. But when it comes to other modes of transport, it's not about choosing one versus another. Rail works brilliantly in some places, but for islands, mountain regions, remote areas, archipelagos, aviation is essential. It's non-replaceable for any mode of transport. So the goal should be complementary. Rail where it's strongest, aviation where it's needed, and making sure that no region or community is left behind, and that we keep an eye that connectivity also increases and not just number of flights.
Thank you very much, Montserrat. Indeed, and connectivity is key, and I think it's also one of the priority of the presidency, the EU presidency at the moment from Cyprus. Thank you very much. I see quite a lot of questions about airports or ground handling, so on. So perhaps for you, Michael. 26 compared to 25, for instance, in Europe, do we see a shortage of labor? I mean, in terms of ground handling or support to the activity at the airport, and is there a drive for more automation at the moment on this? And then we'll have a second batch of questions about AI a little bit later.
Okay. I think I heard the phrase two-speed Europe before, and it's the same story for the labor side. We have some countries with very tight labor markets. I'm thinking of Northern Europe, but especially the Netherlands and Germany, where especially in the rebuilding post-COVID, after airports had restructured, furloughed or let go staff, it was very challenging to bring back on, train, and get security clearance certification for staff. We have other regions or other countries where the labor market is a bit more open, and they have less of a challenge in recovering staffing levels and dealing with operational challenges from staffing. We can also directly observe that in some of the financial data about labor costs at airports and the different speeds at which those costs are increasing across Europe. I think like any economist would tell us, when labor is tight, then you invest in capital. And we see that in the aviation market. We see that in the airport space, where the airports that are the leaders in research and development, testing, and deploying automation, self-driving staff or crew shuttles around the airfield, automated features to connect a jet bridge to the aircraft are the countries where they have the tightest labor markets. And
thank you.
that's pushing the industry in innovation and into using new innovative tools to be more efficient.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yes, indeed, that's an important element. Another question, or several questions which came on the same topic. It's about, I mean, the situation we know at the moment about the growing tensions between the US and Europe, the tariffs and all this. So, in which, how can we assess the impact on air travel of this new development? Have we seen already some impact, and can we forecast also some impacts? But perhaps a question I will start perhaps with Claire, and then Michael, if you want to complement from the airport point of view, and of course, Montserrat, if you want. Claire.
Yes, the impact on the US flows. In fact, in this extensive publication we will release tomorrow, you will have another ranking of the top extra-European flows. And in fact, in 2025, 7 of the top 10 extra-European flows are with the US, so it's still one of the major partners with Europe. We didn't see any visible impact on number of movements. So in 2025, these flows were increased by 3%, so around 200 more flights than we recorded in 24. So far, no drop on these flows. I would also add, when analyzing the data, that we see also that the development of the XLR, the A321 XLR, will also play a big role connecting these two continents. So far, traffic-wise, not a lot of impact. Very difficult to anticipate what will happen. And again, for me, the biggest impact would be on the fares, and possibly would prevent travelers to afford a ticket. So yeah, but I don't know. I'd like to hear
Claire.
what Michael is.
Perhaps before Michael, there was a question about do you take into account the ticket price in the forecast?
Okay, yeah, it's a good question. In fact, in the medium-term forecast, so this 7-year forecast we shared, no, but we do adjust, I would say, based on our technical expertise. In the more long-term forecast, the one which goes out to 2050, we do include this impact of the ticket price, and so include, for example, the impact of the SAF. So it has an impact more on the long term in our work.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Michael, have you seen already some impact of this new development at airport level?
No, not yet. So to complement the data that you have at EUROCONTROL, which is on aircraft movements, but we mostly focus on at ACI are passengers. And when we look at passengers, it also is related to how many seats on the plane are filled. We haven't yet seen a big reduction. Obviously, there's still catch up, and there's been very, very strong growth on the transatlantic corridor of passengers, especially from North America to Europe. We have to be aware of the risks, and one place to look is what happened with inbound Canadian tourism to the United States in the past year. I think last summer it was down by more than 30%. So I see the risk more on inbound tourism, European tourism to the United States, to the ability that airlines can be flexible and redeploy the shortfall in capacity in aircraft they have. There is a ability for airlines to adjust. Consumers still want to travel. As I said, I see this as an industry that's incredibly resilient in the face of challenges. Airlines will adjust and put in capacity into new markets. But it's hard to do that when you have congestion, when you have slots, when you have flight plans and already marketing tickets, and then the impacts are more on airfares and profitability. So it's something to monitor carefully.
Sure. Thank you very much, Michael. I don't know if Montserrat, if you want to add something on this.
Not really. For me, what is more important is that the aircraft and the component parts are excluded from the EU tariff war, if there is one, and because that would create significant pressure on the already really stressed supply chains and costs, and then again lead to issues with connectivity and aircraft availability, etc. So that would have a huge impact. So I hope not to see that.
Yeah, thank you, Montserrat. Yes, indeed. Let's see what's coming. We have many questions about the use of AI, the growing use of AI in relation to data. So many different sort of questions that are, so what we see at the moment, what we can expect, and then that might be something we can also share. You can share your views. If I may, I might start very briefly on our side. We see at EUROCONTROL level more and more AI projects being launched in many different domains. It might be operational or quite a lot. Most of the time, it's about prediction, I would say. So it's moving very fast at the moment. So it's difficult to answer this question. There will be a few workshops this year organized by EUROCONTROL, by EASA, and so on. So I think it's very important to follow that up. On our side, in the aviation intelligence unit, which we are using a lot of AI to do traffic prediction, or not traffic prediction, so to do delay prediction, notably in the mirror tool that we have developed over the last 4 years. But I guess that AI is used everywhere. So I don't know, Michael, if you have any information you would like to share with the audience.
I'll be brief. AI is trendy. We all like to talk about it, but from the airport operator perspective and from the airport business side, thinking about business development and strategy, I think AI, it needs to provide value. It can't just be a novelty. That means it can't be a one-time trick, but it's something that should work for delivering and developing a solution where you have continuous integration and continuous deployment of a process for your airport business, whether that leads to cost savings and efficiency or helps you on your revenue generation or technically and operationally. I think where we start to see the real benefits of AI are things we discuss in the ACI Europe Innovation Forum, where we use AI to merge the data and software part of an airport with the operational part of an airport. Those used to be distinct. You can put AI as a bridge in the middle.
Thank you, Michael. Montserrat, you want to?
Yes, I also have to keep it quite high level. I'm really eager to hear from EUROCONTROL, from EASA, from the agencies, what is coming in terms of technology and how to be used. I know our members are very keen to explore AI capabilities in safety, in commercial. There's really interest in business cases on revenue management, for example, but also in operations, of course. And so it's a really exciting time, but I think we're still in the very much in exploration phase, and it's scratching the surface.
Sure. Thank you, Montserrat. So we are running short of time. There are many questions that we try to answer in a remote way, I would say. Perhaps a last one, but if I could ask you to be very brief, because then we have to conclude this webinar. There was an interesting question about which 2025 trend surprised you the most when you saw the data and why. So I don't know, perhaps we can start with you, Claire, in a few words. Huh?
I think, Claire, you're on mute.
Sorry, my mistake. Sorry. I was just saying that the market segment, the fact that low cost is now the biggest share of operations in Europe. We have been tracking these market segments for now almost 20 years, and so it's a sign. So so for me, yeah, I would just say that. Okay,
thank you very much, Montserrat.
I think for us is probably the gap between the regional recovery and the wider network. Even if, as the headline passenger numbers rebounded, connectivity for many regions did not keep pace and reduce. So I think we really need to investigate further into why. And you can have more flights with fewer links, as I said. So yeah, particularly where some member states have introduced national taxes, I think that's key. So I think it's a good message for them not to do that. and with policies on thin routes. And yeah, at the same time, airport-driven delay remained a drag on reliability for regional operators, despite system recovery. So that also has an effect on connections and customer trust. And I would say also, in terms of data analytics, there are plenty of great tools out there provided by EUROCONTROL, and that could genuinely help airlines. But as mentioned, many people simply aren't aware. So I think we have a challenge there that definitely will be very, very helpful for the future and to make quicker and better decisions.
Thank you, Montserrat. And you, Michael? Any surprise in 2025?
Not something I shared, but something that's interesting to look at with the data that's available is the return of seasonality. We, for a couple of years, said the season has extended and traffic is now more evenly distributed over the year, but 2025 saw a return of passenger traffic highly concentrated in July and August. That means we will continue to have to deal with congestion issues, and we especially need to be aware of the risks of arbitrary or unnecessary capacity caps or constraints at airports.
Thank you very much, Michael. So I think it's more or less time to conclude, but do you have any final conclusory remark you would like to do? And then I will present you one last slide.
Perhaps just a summary that for us, 25 brought some progress, and that's great. But the weather was kind, so you need to keep an eye on the staffing and capacity delays. And again, the message that regional airlines are more sensitive and disproportionately affected by even small delays, leading to missed connections. So I think that's the second message. And again, the importance of the EUROCONTROL tools. So please keep doing the great work.
Thank you very much, Montserrat.
And maybe just to finalize also for 26 and beyond, to call for an accelerated airspace reform, investment in ATCO staffing, and a stronger focus on reducing airport delays that we can all work together to achieve.
Okay, thank you.
The ACI, the airport message would be, let's focus, especially policy making, on ensuring that investment happens where it needs to happen and when it needs to happen. So timely and the right amount of investment in airport capacity, in ATM infrastructure. We're looking at lower but continued strong growth in a network that's already either highly efficient or, in other words, pushing at the seams and ready to burst at any small deviation. So we need to make sure that all the policy that's in place in European countries is favoring investment. There are huge amounts of money that need to be invested in airports, and we need the policy to do that. I recall EUROCONTROL's great Let's All Work Together campaign from a few years back, and that's exactly the kind of collaboration and messaging that works for this ecosystem as we, at the end of the day, provide connectivity for consumers.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, very good transition, because on our side, and perhaps you can show the last slide, we are committed to support all stakeholders and to provide data and analysis. It's not only data, it's also analysis of quality. We want them to be good quality, reliable, up to date, which can serve your objectives, and also, which are relatively high level for also decision making level, I would say. You will find on these two slides a number of documents and our products, which with QR codes, so feel free to go through them. It's an entry point through our portal of Aviation Intelligence, but it gives you access to many different opportunities within EUROCONTROL in general. So we have publications, as you can see here, traffic forecast, we see that today, our portal, which is updated every day in the morning, so you get the data of the previous day. And on the next slide, you have also other products like some tools. The mirror tool is one example, but also it was mentioned several times, our data app, which we keep updating, and at least which gives you in your pocket the latest available data and also live data, as you can see on this screenshot. So I think we are here to help you to customize, so don't hesitate to come back to us with queries. We try to answer as much as we can and provide the right support. So I think it's now time to close this seminar. I do hope that you enjoyed it. I would like to thank our panelists, our panelists, Montserrat, Michael, Claire, for your insightful presentations and discussion and lively discussion. I would also like to thank the audience for showing interest, such a large audience, I would say, to show also the engagement by sending in questions in advance. And we have too many questions, but we will come back to you at a later stage. So thanks a lot. I wish you a very nice rest of the day. And of course, stay tuned for our next webinars, which will be announced in the coming weeks, I would say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
EUROCONTROL.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.